think we're just a few minutes away from kickoff here for the University of Georgia and Alabama, the big matchup we have all been anticipating, and we thought it would come to pass. Look back over some of my preseason predictions, and I predicted Georgia and Alabama would meet in the SEC championship game, and it is definitely coming to pass today in just a few moments. So, what do you think as we get closer to this game? Now, my prediction, my score prediction for Georgia, Alabama, and Georgia is 24-21. We had Jamp Bailey on earlier on our one of our dip ins here to talk about the game, and he's got the game a little with a little more score and a little higher advantage for Georgia. I think if I remember correctly, Champ said 38-27, Georgia winning the game. So, what do you think? What is your prediction? As great anticipation. It's really building now, and we're just a few minutes away from kickoff at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, the beautiful stadium right behind us. Jam-packed stadium today. It's wild. We understand from those who are inside the stadium itself that there's a lot of fun going on right now between these two fan bases and just generally celebrating college football and looking forward to this big game. Now, obviously, this game has tremendous playoff implications. Hey, Trip, how you doing, man? Good to have you dip in here with us. So Washington beats Oregon, much to the surprise of many people. Even though Washington had beat Oregon in the regular season, many people were anticipating, based on how they have played the last few weeks, that Oregon would take out Washington in the Pac-12 championship game. That did not happen. Texas totally dominated Oklahoma State in that championship. So you know, so you got Washington, and you would think undefeated Pac-12 champions Washington may be secure with an invite to participate in the college football playoffs. Texas is a possibility. Texas has only one loss, and that's to Oklahoma, and they have beaten Alabama. So Texas is laying out there with the possibility, very real possibility, of maybe making the college football playoffs. They'll have a good argument based on what happens for the balance of today. And you have Georgia number 1 and Alabama number 8 in the SEC championship game, and it's coming up in just a few moments. And we have everything together that we need. We watched the game in the comfort of our living room. We could get into the stadium perhaps and be with the crowd, but I just kind of enjoy watching it at home and coaching from my couch and my recliner and just being at the house. It's man, and it's great to be on site, obviously. But Georgia, Alabama. Now, from what we have seen, and we kind of did some digging into what prognosticators are saying, and the average score prediction. You go across so many sources where people are predicting, who's going to win and the score. The average score prediction that we can tell from many multiple sources is that most people have Georgia winning this game 31-24. That's kind of the average score, with Georgia winning 31-24. I got it a little closer, 24-21. Georgia, of course, 12-0, 8-0 in the SEC. Alabama, number 8 in the country, 11-1, 8-0 in the SEC. Georgia has won 29 consecutive games. Unbelievable. 29 consecutive games. And going for the 30th consecutive game winning today against Alabama. Jalen Milroe, he's the quarterback. So he's done pretty well. Jalen was benched earlier in the season and came together, got himself together. And when he turned around, Alabama turned around. Milroe has passed for 2,526 yards, 21 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions this year. But also, kind of interestingly, he has run for 439 yards, rushed for 439 yards, and 12 scores on foot. So Jalen Milroe, Milrow rather, playing at a very high level for Alabama. Alabama has rushed for 954 yards over its last 4 games. Georgia, had some little trouble with Georgia Tech in the rushing department last week. The defense did. So Alabama will be looking to exploit that. Carson Beck is, playing at a very high level for the University of Georgia, completing over 72% of his passes. He's thrown for 3,496 yards this season, 22 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. Now, everyone wants to know, well, is Ladd McConkey and Brock Bowers going to play today? And the report is that Ladd McConkey and Brock Bowers will play today. Now, the question is, will they be up to snuff as far as will they, be at the level that you would have them if they were fully healthy? That's the question mark. Ra Thomas is scheduled to play as well. Don't know how effective he will be. Tate Ratledge, I haven't really seen the latest report on Tate. So it's very, if Georgia has Brock Bowers and Ladd McConkey on the field and they are, anywhere close to being, what they have been in this season, that'll bode well for Georgia. Kendall Milton has been really playing very, very well at running back over the past few weeks. He had 156 yards rushing last week against Georgia Tech. The last time that Georgia beat Alabama in Atlanta, now this is Georgia beating Alabama in Atlanta, was back in the 1940s. Now, Georgia obviously has beaten Alabama at other locations and at other places. But the last time Georgia beat Alabama in Alabama was back in the 1940s. Georgia has never beaten Alabama in the SEC championship game. So Georgia will, just a huge, huge game. Georgia has done everything that it needs to do to this point to continue on in the college football playoffs and to go for 3 national championships in a row. Georgia has, up to this point, Georgia has done everything that it needs to do. Now, today, the task is to win this game over Alabama. It's, this is just going to be a tough game. You know that. I know that. We're going to be on the edge of our seats. We're going to be holding on for dear life as we anticipate this game and as this game is going on. Just some notes from the game, of course. Georgia is trying to become only the 9th major college school to win 30 consecutive games. By the way, the longest streak in NCAA history, the longest winning streak was Oklahoma, which won 47 straight games from 1953 to 1957, which is, probably a streak that will not be matched or challenged. Alabama has 10 wins against teams ranked number 1, more than any other school. No other school is even close to, having as many wins as Alabama has against number 1 ranked teams. Will Reichard, the Crimson Tide kicker, is 1 successful kick away from becoming the NCAA's career scoring leader all by himself. Let's hope we don't see Will Reichard on the field very much for Alabama. Georgia's last loss of a game was when they lost to Alabama in the 2021 SEC championship game, 41-24. You might remember that. Then Georgia came back and won the national championship that year against Alabama. The Bulldogs have not beaten Alabama in Atlanta since 1942. In 1942. So things need to change today, obviously. Beginning in 2012, the Crimson Tide has won 4 straight over Georgia. In Atlanta, 3 of those 4 for the SEC title, the other in the national championship game. Now, the college football playoffs as they stand right now, the rankings: Georgia, Michigan, Washington, and Florida State. Now, Washington pretty well has secured its position among the top 4. up to for question today, for the balance of today, of course, is going to be Georgia. Can Georgia secure the number one position? Can Michigan beat Iowa? Surprisingly, there are a lot of people who are saying, hey, wait a minute, Iowa may actually win this game. Iowa's got a tremendous defense, but their offense is terrible, averaging only 12 points a game, a little over 12 points a game for this season, which is, in college football today is unheard of. Georgia can score 12 points in like a minute. But surprisingly, there are people who are picking Iowa to beat Michigan, Florida State and Louisville tonight. And that's going to be an intriguing game. So, so far things have gone pretty well as predicted, with Texas taking out Oklahoma State, just dominating Oklahoma State. And so far, and with Washington taking out Oregon, though, there were a lot of people who were saying, well, Oregon, might win the game with the way Oregon has been playing in the last few days. It didn't happen. So, it is what it is. This is a huge game. Just to recap where we stand with the Georgia Bulldogs. Started the season. It's amazing. You think about when the season started. UT Martin, you remember that? Georgia beat UT Martin. Ball State took out South Carolina. UAB, Auburn, Kentucky, Vanderbilt, Florida, Missouri, Ole Miss, Tennessee, and Georgia Tech. And now we are where we are. And so I hope you have, your nervous pills handy. And hey, it's going to be, this is fun. This is fun. And thank God that the Bulldogs are playing for the SEC championship today. And the SEC after today, by the way, will be forever changed. There'll be no more divisions, no more Eastern and Western divisions in the SEC. That's gone. Texas and Oklahoma coming into the SEC, and who knows? The SEC may even add other teams. Who knows? So after today, things will be forever different in the SEC. And you say, well, what about next year? How will they determine? And there will be a conference championship next year. Well, they'll take the two best teams in the conference. And, if there's some kind of question about which is the best number two team or whatever it might be, they'll, have a formula to figure all of that out. And for instance, I don't know if the officially, if the schedules for next year have been released, but, the scuttlebutt is that Georgia will play Alabama and Texas on the road next year. But that's next year. We'll worry about that next year. Tammy, I'm with you. Nail biting day today. Maybe you got a manicure. It probably won't be worth anything. And that's exactly right. No more Eastern and Western divisions, David. After today, they will be gone. And in fact, after this season, the college football playoffs will be forever changed, because right now the top four teams will qualify, of course, to play for the national championship. After today, that will be determined. There'll be a 4-hour show tomorrow night, on ESPN to reveal the teams that made it to the college football playoffs. But but after this season, the playoffs, scenarios will be changed with 12 teams, a 12-team playoff. And Greg Sankey, who is the commissioner for the SEC, was on game day this morning. I was watching that, and he made the comment of can you anticipate? Can you think about games like, for instance, Ole Miss playing Ohio State in Columbus, Ohio next year as a part of the playoffs? Now, wouldn't that be fun? That would be fun. And, Missouri taking on Penn State in the playoffs next year. That'd be kind of cool. So after this year, 12 teams will make it. But right now, today, determines what 4 teams will make it into the college football playoffs. And it's going to be close. It's going to be tight. And, last year, Alabama made some, noise about, they they felt like they deserved to be in the playoffs. And I made the point last year, you know, for what little that it counts when I make a point, but I made the point last year. If you want to be in the playoffs, win your games, and then you don't have to whine and complain. And Georgia took care of business last year, won their games, made the playoffs. Hey, if you want to make the playoffs, win your game. And Georgia needs to do that today, win the game. So we're about to join you at the in the front seat of our living room here. Nail biting time. Yeah, I hope I have some nails left after this game. My hope and prayer is this: that Georgia will score first. Can Georgia just please score first? Please don't let Alabama score first. In the last 5 games, if I remember correctly, in the last 5 games, the opposing team has scored first when they play Georgia. Georgia Tech did it, Tennessee did it, Missouri did it. All these teams have done it. And then Georgia has to come from behind, and Georgia's done that. Everything's been cool. The Bulldogs didn't get ruffled by falling behind early, but it would be nice on the fans, and it would be nice on the team, obviously. If Georgia would be able to score first in this game, that would make life a little easier for us indeed. Now, we're going to be back with you at halftime, and we'll talk about the halftime, what happened in the first half, give you the opportunity to put your 2 cents worth in. So here I go. I'm fixing to go, and I know you're ready to go too. So you know how we always close things around here.